talk about this clip. Have you guys watched? Tim Dillon was recently on the Mark Norman podcast with Sam Morril. We Might Be Drunk, and they made an interesting comment. They made a very interesting comment regarding Austin, Texas, which is really funny because Bappa and fucking Brian Callen are moving there soon, right? So Tim Dillon has a very interesting observation about Austin, Texas, and everybody that's moving there seeking, fame and riches and comedy glory by kind of, jumping into the comedy mothership thing. He has a very different perspective on what's going on now. And I wonder if this is a bad omen for Brendan Schaub and Brian Callen.
Yeah, she said she's moving to Texas, but I don't believe it.
Is she?
I think the moving to Texas is over.
Really?
This is I could.
You putting your foot down was, I think, a big part of that, probably.
No, it wasn't. Well, maybe it was. But I just think it would. Listen, here's the deal.
One person being like no is helpful.
I think it's. Listen, at the end of the day, let's. Joe is the best. The club is the best. I love Shane. I love Tony. I love everyone. Here's the problem.
Unknown caller.
By the way, I wonder, knowing how Joe Rogan is, I wonder how he took that. Because Tim Dillon was very big on calling out Austin, Texas to be pretty shit. When everyone was sucking off Austin, moving there for the mothership, saying how good the club was, the acoustics, the venue, the crowd, the sellouts, all this sort of stuff. Tim Dillon was pretty early on saying, nah, it's terrible. And he moved there, by the way. He went all the way. He was really early. I think he might have moved around the same time Tom Segura moved there. So he done the whole thing. He moved, he tried it out. He thought, fuck that. Austin is in LA. I'm moving back to LA because he loves, being around rich and famous people and shit. So I wonder how Rogan took that when he heard somebody that he kind of looked, somebody that he kind of likes as a comedian, and somebody would you imagine with a lot of influence is also quite popular. Be like, you know what, this Austin, Texas thing, I'm not feeling it. Austin isn't a new LA. I don't care what you guys say. I wonder how Rogan actually interpreted that or felt about that. I'd imagine he wasn't too happy, because he kind of put off a bunch of people. As Samuel said, I reckon Tim Dillon does have a strong enough voice and does have enough influence and is famous enough, clouded enough to actually influence a bunch of people to be like, you know what, maybe the Austin, Texas isn't the best thing to do. Because you'd imagine a lot of these, especially these podcaster comedian guys who have a pretty big following, they could probably afford to go, to Austin here and there, maybe 2 weekends out of the month. Or like Theo Von, they could probably afford to have 2 places out there, especially based on how much money they make. But they don't need to live permanently out there in Austin. They could easily kind of fly back and forth. So maybe that was actually a good thing for a lot of people. But I wonder how Brendan and Brian are going to feel about it, because they want to move there. They're moving there right now. And they're a bit late, but they're moving there right now.
The city of Austin, Texas, let's be very honest, is dangerous. The homeless there are more aggressive than I've ever seen them in New York.
Yeah.
There's pockets of it that really do look San Fran-like.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Like as a metropolis, it's
and
bad.
It's pretty
brown.
small.
It's small. It's brown. There's no grass. It's not green. It turns brown.
Is that true, by the way? I didn't know that's a thing. There's no grass in Austin, Texas. So there's no parks and stuff. Really? There's no parks? That's a weird thing, isn't it? I'd imagine in other places like Arizona that makes sense because it's more of a desert. But is that normal for there to be states or there to be cities in America where there's not a lot of parks? There's not a lot of greenery. Like, so where do you go to have your lunch? Where do you go to have a walk? Like, what do you do? Like, if there's no park in your area, do you just do without the park, or do you just go to like a concrete? Like, what do you do? There's no like, and I don't mean like a park, like a big, massive, far-reaching acres and thousands of acres place. I just mean there's like a little thing that you can just have a little walk around. You can take a dog. You can maybe be on your phone, calling your mum and shit. Like, where do you go if there's no park? It's pretty crazy.
For 4 months out of the year, it's over 100 degrees. The lake is vomit colored, and there are brain-eating amoebas that can swim up your nose and kill you within 48 hours.
Is that lake the same lake that we saw Chin? Look at Mark Norman's face. That's a great fucking freeze frame, by the way. Let me screenshot that. I haven't screenshot it in a while. Let me screenshot that for an emoji later. Is that lake that Tim Dillon talking about the same lake that is that part of the same lake that Chin saw at the back of his Airbnb when he was on the balcony and he was in Austin, Texas that time during that vlog? Was that the same lake? Because that lake looked very, nuclear. It looked very radioactive. Let's say it It looked very Chernobyl-like.
It's rare, but it happens.
In
Wow.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah, in all the hot lake states, when you get in the lake and go, ooh, this is nice and hot, instead of a glacial lake.
Wow.
Eat
the brain.
Listen, as a city, it's just you cannot compare it. Sorry, to New York or Los Angeles. Can't be
Nice to
compared.
hear that.
Can't be compared.
And that's a weird thing as well about Austin at the time, which you makes a good point about. I never understood why they were trying to make it seem like it was the same as, New York and California and shit, or LA or whatever, when really it's its own thing. They were trying to make it seem like, oh, it's better than these places. But no, it's a different thing. It's its own thing. You shouldn't really sell it as a better than place, because I'd imagine a lot of people who are American probably knew this. I'd imagine a lot of you guys in Stream Chat who are American probably knew from the very get-go that the Austin, Texas's new LA thing was never going to work, because Austin isn't LA, right? And if you love LA for what you love it for, then you're not going to find you're going to find different things to love about Austin, but Austin isn't going to replace the love you have for LA or New York, these coastal elite cities, because they are where they are what they are because of, what they've done for society, what they've done for culture, and whatever else it may be, entertainment over the years. You can't just replace that sort of thing overnight. And it's hard to find a like-for-like city. Every city kind of offers its own little thing. But it would have been a better way to sell Austin as its own thing, as opposed to saying it replaces the other things, Just selling it from its own, maybe because I actually think Rogan's way of moving there actually made more sense in the beginning. I think his rationale was like, I just want to go somewhere different. You know what I mean? I've been in LA for long. I just want to mix things up a little bit, have more space, blah, 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 blah. That made kind of more sense to me in that regard. Being somebody that was, over there. And of course, his kind of aversion to all the Hollywood culture, celebrity, whatever shit as well kind of made sense as well. Because you imagine, I don't know if that's the case. I'm just talking out my ass here. But I wonder if Rogan gets less bothered in Austin than he would in LA. Is that a thing? Or is it just still the same? Or is it worse actually in Austin because more of Rogan type of people would be in Austin, Texas? But I'd imagine because of the scale and the size that he'll probably get less bothered in Austin than he would in LA day to day. Maybe, I don't know.
Compare.
It's nice to hear.
I mean, that's not news to anyone, right? I mean, no one.
Not to us.
Don't say that in the green room of the mothership.
Yeah.
They'll stab you.
Well, I mean,
could you imagine what the green room of the mothership looks like? Could you imagine the amount of sycophants, the amount of fucking Rogan nut huggers, the amount of Rogan acolytes, who probably cringe these guys, because all of these guys can count Rogan as their friends, right? Tim Dillon, Mark Norman, Sam Morril, they could probably say Rogan's their friend and not, and not want to vomit in their own mouths. They'll probably all have Rogan's number. They can text him, ask him for a favor, ask him for advice. But even these guys must get slightly embarrassed when they go to clubs and they see other comedians in the green room sucking off Rogan, even when he's not there. Talking about him in a certain way, talking about how great he is, just completely glazing him. It must be so nauseating, even if you're his friend. And you can imagine what the conversations are like when Austin, Texas comes about. Like, oh my God, it's amazing. Plus, I'm also thinking about it as well, on this side of things. I wonder if part of the Austin, Texas comedy is a new comedy mecca thing. Is almost a side of when you were younger and or when you were younger, maybe your parents moved you away somewhere and you went to a different school, and that school didn't have maybe as many cool kids as your previous school, so you were able to compete, or in some cases you were able to be the coolest person. You then started to talk about how that school was the best.
Powerful bunch.
Yo, big up Addy. I started to see the picture of you.
If you let them tell it, they lived in LA for a decade and one day realized there were gay and homeless people. Suddenly California became liberal according to them. Can't do comedy if it's not a red state, I guess.
Exactly. That last line, can't do comedy if it's not a red state. Exactly. Thank God for Elon Musk and Donald Trump, or comedy will be dead. Yeah, exactly. Big up Asad Aziz. Exactly. They woke up one day and suddenly there was a homeless issue. Homelessness was suddenly a problem. Suddenly, or actually, COVID suddenly made them realize how bad homelessness was. But yeah, I wonder if a lot of this hype around Austin is based on people who were not cool or not that popular in LA, who then moved to Austin and became the big fish. There were a small fish in a big pond in LA, and suddenly they went to Austin and they're the big fish in a small pond.
Like people
I've
were
said
moving
it.
there in Biden's America. They moved there in Biden. Now it's Trump's America, and all of America is kind of like Austin.
I think the politics of New York and LA are insane. I don't agree with any of the people that run anything. I'm just talking about the city.
Right.
I think that I don't.
The lifestyle, the
I don't.
culture.
I would love if they elected a Republican governor in California. I'd love it. I'm just talking about. Let's be very honest about the actual city.
Mm-hmm.
Suburbs are nice. The people are cool. I love Texas. I love Dallas.
Yeah.
I like Houston.
Yeah.
I like San Antonio better. Like the
Interesting.
actual city of Austin is 4 blocks, and one of them is just 20-person brawls, like melees, that are broken up by horses. Like,
That's so accurate. Because honestly, legit, I'm not lying to you guys, and because I'm a foreigner, and, you know, maybe this is a bit skewed, but I swear to God, before the mothership opened, the only thing I knew of Austin, Texas, was barbecue and that is it 6th Street? That place where everyone goes to fight or goes to hang out or fuck whores and shit. You know, that strip with all the clubs. As a foreigner, the only thing I knew about Austin, Texas was barbecue, spare ribs and shit, and fucking fights outside of 6th Street. That's the only thing I knew of Austin, Texas. So maybe it's a good thing that Rogan went to Austin, because he's kind of mixed things up a little bit, and people now regard Austin as maybe a cultural hub and think of it for comedy and live shows and shit. That's nice. But the only things I thought about it beforehand were about fights and food. Only thing.
like, and so I don't even know what we're talking about.
I don't. Yeah. It's
I'm
fun to
just-
visit.
Yeah.
Pop in for the weekend.
Yeah.
Pop out. Yeah, I agree. But also, all these towns you go to, they have to tell you how great it is, which is like a person who posts their wedding photo every day,
Yeah.
and you're like, you guys are going to break up.
Great thing about New York, everyone shits on it. If you go, New York sucks. You go,
Yes.
even the people that love it go, you have no idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Like, you have no idea how much it sucks. I'll tell you why it sucks. And we own
That's because we love it.
because we love it.
Exactly. And you
But I also think the people that moved there aren't going to say that now, because they're trying to talk it up. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people that moved there are maybe subconsciously self-aware that Austin isn't as great as they're making it seem, but they're trying to also build the scene there. They want to get all their friends out there. They want to get more of a scene kind of cultivated and grown out there. So they're going to be, you know, they're going to be adding a bit of spice to the rice when they know actually isn't as good as they make it seem as, I'd imagine. Unless people actually do believe it's actually this amazing. But it's kind of great to hear this sort of conversation. I'm not going to lie. But Brendan and Brian, what they going to do? What they going to do now?
My wife's a fucking whore. You ever gonna leave her? Of course not.
Right.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
love whores.
Right. That's the, you know.
But you don't have to blow New York every day because it's already great. And look, it's got its problems too.
No, but
Don't get me wrong.
the part of living here is being in a constant state of irritation, because
Yeah.
minute to minute there's more frustration in New York. There's more stimulation. You're going to get bumped by a crazy person more often. There's more people on each block. There's less space. You're navigating. You're going to be more frustrated here, but at the end of the day, you're still like, good place to live.
Part of the thing
Yeah.
with Austin too is
Yeah.
it's the worst of the right and the worst of the left. Like everyone's either like a Proud Boy who's like ready to get in a brawl, or it's like a non-binary blue hair dreadlock gremlin.
They push each other
guitar.
to further
You're like,
length.
what is it? You go, is there any normal human? Is there like
Right.
a person?
Right.
The only normal people are like college kids or, you know, tourists.
That's a good point.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I think they push each other so much that they end up like circling around and becoming the same thing. you
Yeah.
know?
It's just like a weird, it's
Well,
like odd.
Well, anyway, you get the gist of it. So, I'm not surprised, to be fair. Like I said earlier, when this whole move happened, I was under the impression that Brendan and Brian moved to Austin, Texas too late. And it still confuses me. It still baffles me why they didn't go when the gold rush started. They should have went to Austin, Texas when the gold rush began. Even if when the gold rush began, they were in the midst of the whole Bobby Lee shit, I think it would have maybe smoothed over a lot quicker if they were out there in and amongst everything and in people's faces. The fact that everybody kind of left LA and left those guys behind gave them an easy way to cut them off. And they all obviously chose sides. They chose Bobby Lee and shit. And that kind of made it difficult. And of course, Brendan was hanging out with, you know, working with Crystalia and shit. And most people have also excommunicated him out of the way as well. So it kind of left them isolated. And then Brendan quit stand up. So it kind of left them isolated. But I guess if, in my opinion, if they would have moved there around the same time everyone else was moving to Austin, they would have, you know, kind of finessed their way into that circle and still been somewhat relevant. And who knows, even Brendan might have been still doing stand-up comedy, and we might have got Gringo Pappy 2. Imagine that. We might have got Gringo Pappy 2, sorry, not Bringo, if Brendan and Brian would have moved to Austin, Texas when everybody else moved there. Now it's a little bit too late. Now it's actually weird. Now it's actually now it's weird. I won't say. Now it's actually too late for Brian, especially in his stand-up comedy career. Number one, because he's old as fuck, and number two, just because it's too late. But Brendan moving there is obviously because of money issues. He's not making as much as he used to, and he's probably going to get way more bang for his buck moving out to Austin, Texas. He won't have a mortgage, and they can still do the show out there, which makes a lot of sense. But for Brian, I don't think it's going to do what he thinks it's going to do for his career. I don't think so. He allegedly filmed a special at the Mothership. That hasn't come out yet. I'm not sure if he's going to put it out now that he's in Austin. He might be doing more spots. He might put it out later. But I think it's a bit too late for Brian's career to suddenly have another resurgence and for him to become a super popular comedian. I don't think that's going to happen. And if it did happen, the unfortunate thing for him, if it does happen anyway, he's going to get a lot of unsavory questions put to him about those allegations, and I don't think he's going to have the correct answer for it. Because can you imagine this version of Brian Callen, who's like super anti-cancel culture, who's talking about standing up against the mob and shit, who's kind of very irate whenever the cancel culture, whenever the fucking Crystalia thing comes up, or whenever his allegations come up in the podcast, he's very angry in terms of how he responds. Because obviously I understand why he's angry, because those allegations essentially destroyed his career. But when you operate in anger, when you operate in frustration, you're going to say the wrong thing. So imagine if Brian's career does actually pop when he goes to Austin, and then the fucking anti-Brian Callen press cycle, restarts, and everyone starts, bringing up the allegations about him allegedly draping somebody. Imagine his response. His response ain't going to do him well. He's going to try and fight it. He's going to try and be all, and it's going to really F him.
Powerful bunch.
Yo, big up, Chris Mack.
You hear ye HH track? Catchy tune, just wild content.
Yeah. I spoke about it in Taz. I spoke about it in Taz. Latest episode of Taz. Check it out. Timestamps in the flipping description. Timestamps in the fucking pinned comment of the latest episode of Taz 902. I speak about Ye's HH song. Very, very, very dicey. Very, very dicey. I'm not gonna speak about it here because I just remonetized this channel, so we're not gonna try and wade in those waters. But I did speak about it. Very, very dicey. Very, very, very dicey. You know what I'd actually like to see? I'd love to see a comedian do a parody of that song, I'd love to see a comedian do a parody of that song, but they're too scared. No one wants to get dropped by WME. No one wants to get dropped by CAA. No one wants to get dropped by Netflix, No one wants to get dropped by Hulu. But I'd love to see a stand-up comedian do a cover of HH. I'd love it. Maybe Red Bar will do a cover of it. Maybe Red Bar will do a cover of HH. That'd be pretty cool. Because he's already done the cover of Cousins that Ye actually fucking retweeted, which is fucking wild, by the way. Ye retweeting Red Bar. But congrats to Red Bar. But I hope somebody does a Ye HH cover soon. That'd be absolutely brilliant. Or maybe Ari Shaffir will do it. Maybe Ari will have the balls to do a HH cover comedy track type of thing. I don't know. But anyway, Austin is dead. According to Tim Dillon, no one should be moving there anymore, which is bad news for Brendan and Brian, who are about to move there just now. Very, very strange timing. But big up those guys. Anyway,